Well, welcome to St John the Baptist, Outwood, as we carry on thinking about the Feast of the Holy Trinity and our own benefice birthday. You know, years ago, I remember as a young teenager bumping into other boys from school. They were on their way to watch West Ham play, but I clearly wasn't dressed for the terraces, so they asked where I was going. And it was then that I discovered that it wasn't exactly cool to be heading to the Dennis Drew dance studio and to dancing lessons. However, being able to dance did have its distinct advantages because you got to meet young ladies, which may sound a bit like a digression, but it's not really, because dancing is all about a partnership, about two people moving together as one, a relationship. So you're learning to move across that dance floor fluidly and as one person, as it were. And to help us understand what that might look like, Dennis Drew used to hold regular dances where we had two professionals come along to give a demonstration. And that demonstration, the way they got those steps and those movements to work, it was incredible. And it's really stuck in my mind the way they could make it look so fluid and natural as two people responded to each other and danced as one. Now, a little bit earlier, Charles was talking about how theologians over the years have really wrestled with the right kind of words and language to use to explain the Trinity. Well, long before ballroom and Latin American dancing were ever thought of, in the early days of the church, they were trying to think, well, how do we talk about Jesus as both fully God and fully human, as Son of God, but also born of the Virgin Mary, as we have just said together in the Creed. And one man in the 4th century, Gregory of Nazianzus, hit on the idea of the word perichoresis. Yes, that fits the bill, he thought. And this word perichoresis talks about movements and rotation, for me, a bit like dancing. It spoke of give and take. It spoke of relationship, of combining and yet remaining distinct. A bit like those professional dancers, one all hand-sewn sequins and the other one black tails and bow tie. But they move together as one, rotating as one, responding to each other's movements and so on. Now, the word perichoresis really caught on and captured their imagination, because those early theologians thought, well, if that works for the two natures of Jesus, for the two natures of Christ, then how about the Trinity? We could use it to help us understand that. Our three-in-one God, our one-in-three God. I wonder whether you've ever noticed the picture that I have on the front of the folder that I use in services. It's a picture of the 15th century Russian icon by Andrei Rublev. And although it's of the Holy Trinity, it's sometimes called the Hospitality of Abraham, because it's a picture of three people sitting around a table, and it's remembering the time when three angels visited Abraham at the Oaks of Mamre, which we read about in Genesis 18. But as a picture of the Holy Trinity, trying to understand that, well, we have three people who are equal. One is not superior to the other. There's some sense of harmony there, some sort of mutuality. They're one together. There's a harmony and a mutual love. And so the icon, well, for me at least, conveys the same idea as that special word they came up with, perichoresis. It's something of what I like to think of as the eternal dance of the Trinity. And by the eternal dance of the Trinity, I'm thinking of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, three equal and yet distinct persons of the Trinity, moving together as one, united, harmonious in their common purpose. In our gospel reading, we heard Jesus give the Great Commission to the disciples. Here was the Son of God speaking with the authority of God the Father about the mission that they would have to carry out in the power of the Holy Spirit. He tells them to go out, the disciples to go out, to baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And just now we heard from Charles, who went to the font at St Bartholomew's, the font where he was baptized, and talk about how this is a work of God, the whole God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, the saving work. We might think of Jesus' baptism, where the voice of the Father comes from heaven and says, "This is my Son, the Son of God," as the Holy Spirit in the form of a dove descends upon him. And Charles also read, of course, the final verses from 2 Corinthians again. And here we have those words that Paul blesses the Corinthians with, which we commonly call the grace. Reminds me of the blessing that we have at the end of every service. Because here is the Trinity, Father, Son and Holy Spirit blessing us. The rich blessings of the Father, won for us through the Son and made real in our lives by God the Holy Spirit. The eternal dance of the Trinity, Father, Son and Holy Spirit, moving and working as one in harmony in and among us. Now the story of this strange word perichoresis doesn't end there, because it carries on being used in different ways right up to the present day. And that notion of community within the persons of the Trinity, rather like the harmony of those three equal figures around the table in the Rublev icon, or two dancers moving as one, that notion of giving and sharing and equal community in the Godhead points for them to how the community of the church should work. So a modern day theologian can say that the Holy Trinity is our inspiration for toleration and cooperation, for sharing and harmony within the community of the church. It's as though the church has the wonderful opportunity to watch a demonstration by the Holy Trinity and to see how our life should look and be. Like my teenage self looking on at those expert dancers, showing me how to dance, the likes of Frank and Peggy Spencer or someone like that. Sunday before last, Charles spoke about our split screen moments of being unable to worship together and have communion together and embrace one another and so on. And yet he said we're no less one because we all share in that one same service online. Or if you're listening on the CD, on CD. And Nicholas has talked about how good it is that we have recordings of past services, how that draws us together, reminds us of our oneness with each other and gives us new ways to engage with God as well. It seems a little bit ironic that our inability to meet, or perhaps because of it, means that we've discovered a new sense of our oneness as a Windmill United benefice. Because week by week, we're currently all sharing in the same service. And that new awareness of oneness is something we would be wise to take into our future together as three parishes in one benefice. I can't resist one last memory of dance, but this one is a comedy one. Some of you will remember Mr. Pastry, a comic character played by Richard Hearn, and if you don't remember him or can't picture it, then have a look online. You'll find that clip. Because my favourite skit is the one where he dances the Lancers. Now, if you don't know the Lancers, it's like a square dance. There are 4 couples, and they each keep changing partners. But Richard Hearn, Mr. Pastry, does it all on his own with the imaginary dancers, with childishly hilarious results. Take a look if you haven't seen it. And I suppose I'm thinking of that because, unlike, say, a solo performance by a ballet dancer, a dance that's intended for a group or even a couple just doesn't work properly if you do it on your own. The dance is at its best when you have 2 people cooperating with each other, a group of people cooperating with each other, when they're flowing together, they're sharing, responding to each other. Then something beautiful, something elegant begins to emerge as they learn to do that well. So as we celebrate the feast of the Holy Trinity and our Windmill Benefice birthday, 3 parishes in one benefice, we can look to the future with what we have learned from being one, about moving together in unison, what we've learned about being in harmonious common purpose, not only from our lockdown lesson, but from watching the demonstration given to us by the eternal dance of the Holy Trinity.